I'm just sitting here sort of waiting for things to get started. Um, I'm not your most tech savvy person, so I had to rearrange what I was doing on Facebook. But soon with our monthly live, and the topic is uh, today is on negativity in neurodivergent relationships. And I I hate even bringing that up because it doesn't feel fair to talk about the negativity when we're trying to talk about how to live this life, how to cope, how to make it even better. But that's the whole idea. So I've got the comment section open. If you want to let me know that you're listening, that would be helpful. Sometimes Facebook puts the number of people at the top of the page for me to see, and sometimes not. And so I don't always know if people are here unless you raise your hand, so to speak, by checking in. I appreciate if you check in for the event. I've got a kitty cat who's trying to help me here. Um, oh, good. Hi, Debbie. I'm glad you made it. So that helps me. For whatever reason, I don't know if anybody's here unless you say hi. You're also free to ask questions if you like. And oh, good. Gosh, Sandy's there. Good. People are showing up. I appreciate that. Uh, so let me talk a little bit about the topic. Oh my gosh, lots of people here. Julie, Sophia, great. People are showing up. That's wonderful. Um, Negativity and neurodivergent relationships. That's the theme actually for September. This is a Facebook Live to announce the events that are coming along, and the general topic covers that area. So what I wrote in the description is negative feelings like stress and anger in our relationships greatly impact our overall health. Of course, we know that. That's why I sort of don't even like bringing up the fact that we're going to be talking about negativity, because that increases our negativity if you think about it. Anyway, once those stress chemicals are unleashed on your body and your brain, there can be permanent changes that lead to ongoing traumatic relationship disorder or anxiety or psychic numbing. I'll talk about what those things are. So let's talk about all the stress that's going on in our neurodivergent relationships. Like I said, you're welcome to put questions there. Hi, Miriam. Gosh, good. People are showing up. It's wonderful. And like I said, if you have questions, please post them in the comment section. I'm going to keep looking over there to let people, so if you see me wandering over, I'm just reading a question and seeing if I can answer it while I'm talking, or at the end of the live, I'll answer the questions too. And if I miss your question, I'll go back after we're done recording and I'll try to answer just at least on a message. So here's the thing. I want to let people know that this Facebook Live is supportive of our MeetUp group. And you don't have to be in the MeetUp group to attend the Facebook Live and to ask questions and participate all you want. But I do want to urge you to join our MeetUp group, Asperger Syndrome, partners, family, friends of adults on the autism spectrum, because that's where you get to talk with each other. You don't just get to listen to me talk like on this live. You get to actually meet with other people. We have free monthly teleconferences where you can ask questions and hear other people that are living this life talk and bring up ideas. A lot of times they have tips for us. I also offer video conferences. They're private for each um, uh, uh, during the month, and I'll be announcing what those topics are in a minute. But the video conferences are not recorded, but they're for members only. And it's a small group, like 8 people, 10 people, so that you can talk with each other, meet other people that are living the same kind of life that you are. And believe me, the patterns are similar. The teleconferences are recorded and they are saved at our private website for members to go and listen to as often as you want. And we have several years of teleconferences. So I know people who listen to some of them every day and keep expanding their consciousness and their solutions. Oh, we've got Jan and Cindy. Oh my goodness, this is great. So, um, In addition, you can also participate online at the Meetup group. We have private confidential message boards where you can go in and, read what other people have written, posted for many, many years. I've got message boards that go back at least a decade. And you can start new message boards. You can start new topics that you have questions about. Another thing that's important is that if you're a new member, I really urge you to join the new member forum that Julie hosts, and Julie's on the call today. Julie has been part of the group for many, many years, and so new members sometimes try to navigate this network that I've set up, and it gets a little overwhelming. So Julie will host a monthly membership call, totally free for members that are new, to learn how to use these resources, and also just to talk about your lives and how's it going. We also are still in the process of trying to set up more local meetups, but we do have a local meetup in New Zealand. That's Julie's also. She's got a separate one. We've got, so for that time zone, then you can also participate on the East Coast of the US in that time zone. And then there's a UK time zone or Europe time zone, where if you want to get together with people that are more closer into your community and get to know each other. And it's very informal. There's no presentation. It's just run by the local folks that are members of our group. Now, I want to get on to what we're talking about, which is negativity and neurodivergent relationships. And I'll just tell you the events that are coming up. And like I said, make sure, oh, hi, Robin. There's Robin. Linda, oh my goodness, great. This is Inez. Oh, perfect. All right. We've got people, by the way, from all over the world on this Facebook call. So, somebody's saying hi from Canada. Somebody else is from Israel, believe it or not. Somebody else is from, oh, she says she's she's a Luxembourger, but she's in Lithuania right now. Yeah, there's people from Tennessee, from California, all over the place. So, negativity. The first video conference that I'm offering the title is, Are You Aspergated for Good? I'm offering that on Monday, September 12th and Wednesday, September 14th. I try to offer them at 2 different times so that you can make it. If you want me to put another date on, because this particular video conference is nearly sold out, there's only 1 space left. So what we ask you to do is post either here on Facebook or at the Meetup group if you would like to participate in any of these calls that I'm talking about. If they're sold out, I try to put an extra one in. So I did do that in September. I added a couple more calls. I forget what they are, but they're on the Meetup site. So this one, are you aspergated for good? Yes. The answer to that is yes. Here's the problem with having a neurodivergent relationship where you've got someone who's neurodiverse and someone who's neurotypical. You have different operating systems. Those operating systems collide over and over and over again. Oh, Canadians, we got Canadians there. Thank you. If you keep being pulled out of your way of understanding things, what happens is that we can get really confused by, whether we're right or wrong or on the right track or not. So a lot of times in our group, we refer to the neurotypicals who've become aspergated because we keep adapting to the neurodiverse style. We keep adapting to that more transactional style. People who are neurodiverse are transactional. People who are neurotypical are interactional. And so we kind of walk in between. And I don't think once you've been in one of these relationships, whether it's with a parent, with a partner, or you're raising a child on the spectrum, you're going to be different. You're going to act differently. You're going to understand things differently. And I just think that we have to pay attention to that and turn it into something positive instead of that negativity. Now, I myself personally grew up with an Asperger parent, married an Asperger spouse, and raised an Asperger child. So what that did, I just know that I'm different than the average person as as a result of that. Um, okay, the next, and I'll answer questions about this if you want me to, what I mean by aspirated and so forth, but let's go down the list of things that are happening. The next video conference is entitled Surviving Unremitting Grief. That's on Tuesday the 20th and September 22nd. There is room in that conference right now, so you could sign up for it if you join the Meetup group. And joining Meetup's easy. Just Google Meetup, join it, and then Google my group, the Asperger syndrome group, and you'll find a way to join us. And I think we put the link. I did put the link in the description of today's Facebook Live, so you can get there. Surviving unremitting grief. One of the reactions that neurotypicals and neurodiverse people have is a great deal of grief, sadness, depression in these relationships is a natural result of being, um, involved with someone who thinks really differently than you do. I hope that makes sense to you. So, what's important is to realize that we can survive this, that the shock to our system that somebody's using a different operating system or a different way of looking at the world, that we can survive that when we have tools to better understand where they're coming from. But the grief that we have married or in a family or a close relationship with somebody who functions really differently from the way we function, honestly, it does produce grief and depression. It makes people feel like they've lost something for good. So I want to talk about that. That's another, what we can do that. We can learn to count our blessings. We can learn to see how to build an interface protocol. That's what I call it. You build an interface protocol between these operating systems. Okay, then the third event of the month is our teleconference, and that's free to all members. And temporarily, when you first join, you get a 30-day free trial. See if this works. So you can attend a teleconference and a video conference if you want to. And then after that, there's an annual fee to be part of the group, and it's only $25 for the whole year. So I really urge you to give it a shot. Anyway, the teleconference is, are you going through an identity crisis? Um, we usually have about anywhere from 50 to 100 people sign up for a teleconference. I don't care how many people sign up. You're welcome to do that. There's telephone numbers that we use through free conference calling service. And on the conference call, I do most of the talking, but I open up a queue so that people who are on the call can ask a question or talk about something they want to share with the group. So, what the identity crisis concept is that as your operating system is challenged by somebody who's got an operating system that doesn't use your interactional approach, what happens is we doubt ourselves quite a bit. And that's part of that aspirated thing too. What happens is we start wondering, am I a good communicator? Am I a good partner? Um, Other people don't seem to be going through what I'm going through, so maybe it's just all me and I've been wrong about a lot of things. And that identity crisis lasts for a while, and either we can get depressed and or we can say, wait a minute, let's take this on. Let's not have an identity crisis. Let's expand what I'm capable of doing. Oh, and we've got somebody from Mexico, and Pat's asking, will you be discussing negativity now? Yes, I am. I'm discussing it, but I'm trying to keep it as positive as possible. But I'm going to talk about how we express that negativity and how we can cope with our partner's negativity. Because there's a little phenomenon that goes on with neurodiverse people where they frequently will tell you no to almost anything you suggest. So I'll deal with that one. Then the last video call is, do others think you complain too much? That's our negativity. And that's going to be held on September 27th and 28th. And again, if these get booked before you get the chance to join our group or register for one of these events, post a notice to Daniela, who's our membership manager, or to me, and we'll see if we have enough people requesting it, like we did these last two calls that I reposted in September, early September. Then we'll add it. We'll add one. Oh, hi Angie. So, do others think you complain too much? The problem is that what we're trying to understand things. So when something doesn't fit, it can sound like a complaint when we're saying, I just don't get why he or she does that. Or, I really can't stand this. We complain. But what we're really doing is trying to get underneath it. It's just we do have to be very careful how we present this to others or to our neurodiverse or neurotypical loved one, because they're going to think that we can't do anything right, that or the other person can't do anything right for us, and that's not really what it's about. It's about trying to understand by bringing up the problem. So us neurotypicals are interactive. So let's leave these conference titles here for a minute and talk about negativity in general, because that's a really good point. And Marina says, I'm in a very negative place right now. What happens, hello from Poland, or to Poland, hello to Poland, hello to Mexico. I'm glad you're on the call. Negativity is a normal reaction to abnormal stuff. I want you to really hear that. It's not wrong. It's what healthy people do. We get negative when we're trying to cope with something that makes no sense to us, that doesn't fit our paradigm, right? So what happens is that we focus on that negative thing because we're actually trying to solve it. All right? The problem is, by continuing to focus on that negative thing, we increase our negativity. We increase our anger, our anxiety, our sadness, our fear. It goes up. Now, psychologists used to say a long time ago that all we had to do was, take out punch a pillow, or go out in the backyard and break something to get over all this stress. But that doesn't work. It increases your stress. It increases your negativity. So in order to manage our negativity, it's important. You're noticing a problem, but then we have to step out of the negativity as much as we can and look for answers. And that's what this group's about. This meetup group is about, and our Facebook Live is about looking at this from a different angle so that we have answers instead of just complaints. But I always like to accept it when somebody says you complain too much. I say, yeah, you're probably right. I am kind of into that complaining mode instead of solutions to the problem. So let me talk about the problem and see if you've got some answers for me. I'm not going to let them get away with telling me I should just stop complaining, because then I'm stuck with the problem all by myself. And I don't want you to be stuck with the problem. I want you to join this group and complain together, and then I'll try to steer you over to solutions, right? So one of the solutions, by the way, is I want to let you know that I keep saying this at every Facebook Live, I'm almost ready to publish my new book, which is Empathy is More Than Words. And I've got a lot of tools in that book. And I'm almost ready to promote my online recorded course. It's 7 chapters, a number of lessons in there to help you understand how to get out of the negativity and build an interface protocol between these operating systems. Now, what we've known before, hello Pittsburgh, what we know is that you can go to therapy and learn how to take better care of yourself. And that's a good thing. You can study autism, and that's a good thing to learn more about that. But what we haven't had until now, I think, is a way to communicate across those barriers, a way to communicate into somebody else's operating system. There haven't really been any tools except to just be a kind person, or to go for go on vacation, or go get together with friends and reclaim your mind. And what I want you to start learning is how to identify the problem quickly and then move over to building an interface protocol so that your communication is getting through to the other person and they're getting through to you. So that's what this um, is about. You cure your negativity. Einstein said that you can't solve a problem within the system that created the problem. You can't solve the problem. That's a paraphrase. Didn't say it quite like that. But the idea is you can't solve the problem within the system that created the problem. You have to step out of it, and that's what you're going to do in these uh, events that I'm hosting. That's what you're going to do by attending um, my recorded conference. You're going to learn tools for how to see the world differently and interact differently. I hope that makes sense. Oh, so let's go start answering some of these questions because they're perfect. So Inez says, how to find positive answers when the partner is denying being on the spectrum. They might be denying the label, but they're still on the spectrum, aren't they? And you know that to be true, Inez. So while they're doing, and this is really very common to deny the diagnosis, what they're doing is saying, kind of, if I stick my head in the sand, it'll go away, right? If I don't acknowledge it, then it's not a problem. Or they're saying, you're trying to blame me by giving me a diagnosis or having me go for a diagnosis. Well, of course, we're not trying to blame anybody. We're looking for answers. We're distressed. We're trying to figure out what's going on. So I do my best to continue to say, look, we're in this together. I'm looking for answers too. I'd like you to join me in therapy. If the other person doesn't want to. Sometimes it's the neurotypical that doesn't want to go. I have a number of clients who are on the spectrum, and they're happy to come into therapy. Their neurotypical spouse doesn't want to because they want their neurodiverse person to change before they're willing to change. And we really have to take a good look at that and say we both have to change. We both have to grow. Doesn't mean change who you are. It means expand who you are. Learn new things. Um, so in terms of dealing with that labeling stuff or the diagnosis, I just think it's really helpful. I always remind people, having a diagnosis means that you've got a way to look at things differently than you did before. You've got a body of research and literature and tools that are specific for this population. So why not give that a try? But it's tough reaching people on the spectrum because they tend to get very, very defensive about being diagnosed this way. So Luis says, have you heard about Stanley Rosenberg's work on vagus nerve and ASD? I just got his book on vagus nerve for myself, but he has pages on ASD. So um, you can look that up. It's really, really pretty powerful stuff for dealing with PTSD, anxiety, the defensiveness, the incredible stress. TMS is another one that works really well. These are tools that we're starting to discover that if we can get, so the bottom line is this really, if we can get our anxiety separated from what we're working with, then it's not so negative. We have big problems to deal with, don't we? This is a group that has big, major, major, stressful, painful, tough lives. This is not easy stuff. But it's a lot easier if we can get our trauma reaction managed better. So, and that's what Louise is referring to, tools that help reduce your reactivity or your partner's reactivity makes it easier to talk about things. So Angie says, why did they not have empathy? He's so smart and seems to understand so much. So, hi, Gwendolyn. There's hello to Germany. This is a common question, and I'm so glad you're asking it because I think it needs to come up over and over and over again. I define empathy to mean the ability to be in this moment, in this time, with the other person, holding their reality preciously at the same time that you're aware of your own, and you're looking for a communication. This is interactive, and they're not interactive. They listen to you, they take it in, they put it over there somewhere. They might do something with it, but they're not listening to you, they're listening to what you're saying. Empathy is the ability to listen to the human being who's talking with you. So empathy is three parts. It's the ability to read the energy. It's the ability to understand which parts of the context. Second part is context sensitivity. Knowing which parts of the context you're going to address next and next and next. And conversation is the third part. The conversation keeps weaving empathy and context together. So they're good at, people on the spectrum are good at stepping away, looking at all that data later, maybe writing about it, writing an email to you. They can come back later and get what you were talking about if they get their anxiety out of the way. But then we miss that moment that feels so good when somebody gets you right now. That's empathy, okay? It's not that they don't care. The people on the spectrum of obviously do. And many of them have been so grateful that I've explained this because they say things like, well, I'm sensitive and I'm really actually do understand people very well, just not in the moment. That's important. Let's see here. I thought there was a question up here and I don't want to miss that. Um, oh, I want to add to this piece of it that Angie was asking. Transactional people do understand a lot. There's a whole bunch that they're doing and analyzing with that transactional approach. But that doesn't mean they're giving you a loving connection when you're talking with them. That requires a fluent use of the empathy triad and being interactional, which is what I talk about in my book, Empathy is More Than Words. Let's see here. And there was another, yes, PJ says, mine uses both, whoops, keeps bouncing around here. Mine uses both, hides behind the diagnosis, my mind is wired differently, and so I can't help it, or he says he really doesn't have a problem, it's me. So I think he's not, I think they both are true. Instead of saying my mind is wired differently, I like saying that we each have a different operating system. So if you have a MacBook, that has one, or Apple has one operating system, right? Or if you have a different type of computer, or you have an iPhone or an Android, they've got different operating systems. The operating system is kind of the base plan that everything's hung on, right? So if you're going to download Zoom, I don't know if I'm doing an ad here, but if you're going to download Zoom, you need to download for your MacBook or for your Android version, or your iPhone or your Android version. And the reason for that is that they're just built on different engineering principles. So instead of saying different wiring, I think it's really powerful, even though I've used that metaphor myself, to say it's a different operating system. And that's the value of the diagnosis. Let's find out what his or her operating system is. Then it's not an excuse. We need to build an interface protocol. Yeah, I can't help it that I'm an iPhone, but I want to be able to call somebody who's got an Android. That's what the internet does, right? The internet is an interface for these different operating systems. We don't have an internet for interpersonal operating systems, but we can build an interface protocol. That's what I call it. It's an interface protocol that includes a lot of tools. Somebody else was saying, what are the tools? Um, I can't talk about all those tools right here, but if you attend our group, you'll start learning some of these tools to build the interface protocol. Step one is to be resilient, and this is a group that certainly is resilient, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical. You're people who want to know how to do this. That's resilience. People who keep trying. That's resilience, right? Another tool is having the diagnosis, accepting that it is a different operating system, And it's a minority operating system. So this makes it a little difficult. If you've never bumped into somebody on the spectrum before, then you don't really know how to deal with it. And even if you have met these people, nobody's taught you how to connect up these two different operating systems, right? It makes sense. Nobody's taught you before. Instead, they focus on autism, or they focus on anxiety or depression, or taking your life back. I'm always telling people, take your life back. But it doesn't mean that that's you still are having to do it by guess and by gosh. So I think it's really valuable to meet with other people who are learning the tools of resilience, accepting the diagnosis, using the empathy triad, uh, apologizing, forgiving yourself, forgiving the other person. There's a lot of tools that sort of have these general categories, and I'll talk about them more in our events. Let's see here. When will my book be available? I wish I knew, Debbie. I keep getting, my editor keeps giving me more things to do and more things to do, but it's really only weeks away. It's not too far. The same with the course. The course should be out before the end of September. So, and I'll let you know about it. Obviously, I'll post notices about it. So Guinevere says, any suggestions on getting my ASD 56-year-old husband to get help with someone like you, or you yourself really difficulty? Talks always end in a fight. Oh, yes, it's very difficult. Talks always end in a fight. Um, so for you neurotypicals, if you're presenting this to your neurodiverse loved one that you would like him or her or them to talk to me or another psychologist who's knowledgeable, part of the problem of bringing this up is that the neurodiverse person feels attacked, even when you're kind. They feel that you're blaming them for being neurodiverse. And and you know where that comes from. It comes from us complaining all the time, of going, I can't believe this. How come you forgot to pick up our kid at the soccer field? Whatever it is that we've gone through a few years probably of being frustrated. And so when we present this, um, they have a background where they can take it negatively. But we could have been super gentle and kind all along, very understanding, and people on the spectrum will still take it in a transactional way. If you say, hey, let's go for therapy, you might be saying, let's go, let us go, let's go get some help for us. And they may hear it as, you're the problem, go to therapy. It's not what you said, but they're transactional. And transactional people believe there's a winner and a loser. There's a right and wrong, there's a black and white. So, how do you get them to go? If they won't go, and like I told you, I have as many people with autism scheduling appointments with me as neurotypicals. So it's not necessarily unique to our neurodiverse population that they're reluctant to go or defensive. But I think the way you bring it up is you just are firm about it and say, this is too important to miss. I'm not going to miss it anymore. I want help for this. And I want you to go with me. And I found a good person, and she can see us, or he can see us on Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon. So I've scheduled an appointment. They will probably go. Here's the thing with neurodiversity, though. If they haven't been there before, it's more scary for them than it is for you. So I usually suggest that you make the appointment, you make them go, and then they're going to relax because the therapist is kind. The therapist will be easy to talk with. They're not going to be threatened once they've had one session. That's my best advice about how to get any reluctant party in. If you're neurodiverse and trying to get your neurotypical partner to go to therapy, it can be just as difficult. You know, they don't want to be something wrong with me, and you need if you can present it like this with this idea of two different operating systems that we've got. You've got an iPhone and I've got an Android. You've got an iPhone and I've got a burner phone. You can present it that way. You can kind of say, I have a terrible system. You can say, but what you want to know is how do we make these two operating systems more more compatible, more loving, more supportive. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a therapist who can help me translate my world and your world. They might go along with that. Oh, I have one more tip. If your child is on the spectrum, chances are that other parent is going to be willing to go because they're going to realize that the therapist is going to be speaking to them as well. Okay, Angie says, will your new book help them work on their empathy skills, or is it more, having trouble reading this here. Oh, there it is. Is it more for us to cope with not having that support? Um, the book and the course are for both populations, and it's not about working on their empathy skills because people on the spectrum don't have empathy. They don't use the empathy triad smoothly, but it is about reinforcing that if they take, they can learn aspects of the empathy triad if they take their time. If we allow them, if we neurotypicals allow them to take a 20-minute break and think about it, and if they're willing to do that, they're willing to take a break, make a few notes, and then come back and say, oh, is this what you were trying to say? And then we can say, yeah, actually, that is what I was trying to say. So they don't learn empathy skills per se, although they can be respectful of your empathy. So they could say it's so much better if they say, I don't think as fast as you. I'm not picking up on those little cues that you understand so well, but give me a minute. Let me process what you said. That would be huge because I think all of us neurotypicals would gladly give them time if they are willing to come back and talk again, which is tricky. Oh, you're helping each other, which I love this. So people are posting answers to other people's questions so that I can move along here. So Robin says, my husband's negativity about everything is extremely depressing. I'm a very positive person. I wince every time he opines in the negative. Is this the ASD or is he just a negative person? It's hard to say, but I can comment on this one. I do. One of my events is why do they always say no? Oh, by the way, the meetup group itself is for neurotypicals only, not for you neurodiverse folks, but the course and the book address the neurodiverse person too. So here's the problem with that delay, right? That empathy for neurotypicals is right here in the moment. That doesn't work that way for transactional people. They need to think about it. They need to check how they feel. They need to make some notes. And so what happens is that when we throw things at them, when we neurotypicals say, right, come on, whatever, we throw these things out, and their first reaction often is to say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. Um, that's not true. Or they jump on a word you used and go after that when it's not what you're talking about. These are not okay methods to use. These are unkind, but where that comes from is the neurodiverse person needs time to think. So they've come up with tools that they use, like no, or they turn around and walk out of the room while you're in the middle of talking. So it appears as if they're negative, but what they're really doing is trying to transactionally shut you down until they can think it through. So I know that's not nice, and I don't want my neurodiverse people to use that tool. So I teach them to say something like, can you give me a moment to think about what you're saying, or would you mind if I even made some notes while we're talking? That's more polite than just getting up and walking away or getting mad. And they get mad because we're asking them again. We even say things like, did you hear what I was saying? Could you listen to me? And if you think about it, it's kind of rude to say it that way. But we're so surprised that we're just talking about Junior's birthday party and our neurodiverse person can't hear any of the suggestions that we're making about the party. We're just shocked. And so we can be rude too. So I want them to say, I need a break. I hope you don't mind. And we have to allow the break. We can also suggest the break, but it's kind of dangerous if we said something like, it looks like maybe you need some time to think about what I'm saying. It's true, but they could they could feel offended that you're pointing out that they're not very smart or they're slow, right? So does this, so far, gonna have to wrap this up in a few minutes, but does it make sense to you that without the proper tools, there's all this negativity in a neurodivergent relationship? Neurodiverse people are learning to say no all the time so that they can just buy some time to figure out what's going on here. Neurotypicals are getting negative because sometimes we're just trying to connect. We're not talking about anything important. We're just saying hi, and our neurodiverse loved one shuts down. Right? And on the other examples here, we're negative in these relationships because the positive side of it is we're trying to solve a problem. The downside of it is we spin in that negative energy and get nowhere. And that's not healthy. Let's see here. I want to make sure I get to people. Oh, Jake says interface protocol, which makes it possible for us to better understand each other. Yay. Yeah, exactly. It's an interface protocol. It's not that one person needs to be fixed and the other person's fine, or the other person needs to be fixed and now I'm fine. It's that you're both fine, but we need a way of talking, an interface that works for these different operating systems that's neutral and kind and fair and uh, treats each other with respect. But it's not easy to do, but I want you to understand the concept, right? And PJ says, I so totally relate. I was such an upbeat, happy person, and now, yes, I think uh, more like him, and I have lost part of myself, and I want it back. Absolutely. This is what it's all about, is taking you back from that negativity. But I want you to realize that you're not bad for being negative. It's a normal response to a seemingly unresolvable problem. And I say seemingly because I don't think it is unresolvable. I was there. I thought it was unresolvable. I was so stressed that I was falling downstairs and breaking bones. Another good question here. Do we have time for this one? Let's see. Um, PJ, your comments are funny. She says, marriage is for adults. I'm married to a brilliant 14-year-old. It feels like that because he's using transactions, not interactions. You're using empathy. He's using cognitive analysis. It's just two different operating systems that don't work together yet, and yet both are valuable operating systems. Uh, let's see here. Carla, I just saw you. If the NT is doing all the work, attending events like this, reading about ASD, attending individual therapy, and the ASD is doing no work and instead dismisses the NT's feelings and experiences repeatedly, is there any hope for the relationship? So that's the common theme. We NTs seek out Facebook Lives, YouTubes, books, my meetup group. We're seeking out others to work out solutions with. We're trying to gather new information that are going to help us with this. Your neurodiverse loved one just goes inside and says, gosh, I mean well, that's good enough. Okay, so we are presenting the problem wrong. What Carla's doing is saying, I want my partner to understand my feelings. I want to understand his feelings. And that's perfectly reasonable, but that's an iPhone system. That's not the burner phone system. The burner phone system, it takes a while for my neurodiverse folks to actually schedule regular appointments. They'll schedule an appointment and they'll say, I'll reschedule soon. And I'll say, well, when would that be? And they might not come back in for 6 months. Got to put my cat down. So they don't use therapy as an interactive approach. They use it for coaching. All right. So that's how I would set it up if I'm inviting them to therapy, is that it's coaching for them, it's tips and tools, and for us, it's a dialogue. It's dialectical, it's interactive. We want tips and tools too, but we're going to get them by conversing with the other person. So this is a complex question that Carl is asking. How do we get them to do the work? It's got to be the work that works for the burner phone or the Android phone, not your phone. And then once it's working for them, we can build an interface between those two systems. First is get on board and understand how you function, that you're an Android, you're not an iPhone. You got to get that. And then, in fact, how many of you have been stuck on your phone and you couldn't figure out how to fix some program or a blip, and you ask somebody else about it, and they say, "Well, I don't know. I don't have Android. I don't know." Right? It's the same thing. First, let's understand our neurotypical, how we function interactively and use empathy all the time for everything. And the autistic person needs to understand their transactional nature. They need to get it. And then we can talk about how do we bridge these two worlds. Let's see if I only got a couple more. I've got a couple more minutes. Um, oh, there's another aspect to this. Malina says, my HFA husband is reluctant to get therapy because he has trouble trusting a counselor. Can you explain that? I don't understand why he wouldn't trust an expert or professional. Basically, your HFA husband doesn't trust anybody. If you think about this minority operating system, they've had lots of experiences with people trying to talk to them about their feelings when they're trying to talk about the thoughts, right? The transactional person is looking at the data set, the thoughts, the information, not the person who's delivering it. Neurotypical people are looking at the person who's delivering it, listening to that human being, and the data set comes later. So therapists are taught, and they're mostly interactional people, they're taught to relate on that interactional level, which leaves transactional people cold. That's why we need to understand these two operating systems and then build an interface. Oh, Desi, this is a good one. Desi Van, she says, can people on the ASD spectrum love? Are they able to love? And of course, they feel love, because all human beings do. Well, unless they're psychopaths. But yes, they can feel love. That's different than being loving. Love is the ability to be there for the other person in the way that feels like love to them. So for us neurotypicals, it feels loving to have an interaction using empathy. That's why we offer empathy. That's when we smile at somebody and they smile back, we feel good, right? We know how to affirm them. It's more of a process, an energy exchange. But love for people that are neurodiverse, it's also how they feel on the inside, and they feel they 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 don't know how to engage in the process of loving in the moment. They may go out and buy you a very nice birthday present or take you to your favorite restaurant for your birthday, but fail to say happy birthday or I love you, sweetheart. Right? They don't recognize in the moment when it's the right moment to offer that loving gesture. So it's the wrong question, really. Can people on the ASD spectrum love? Yes, of course they can. Are they able to love? Yes. Are they able to demonstrate it interactively for the iPhone? Not unless they learn it. That's what therapy does. Therapy helps them learn how to speak your language and for you to speak their language. And I think on that note, I've got to go. And I'm sorry I'm not getting to everybody's questions. There's a lot here, but I do have to go. I will go back and answer the questions, not to worry about that. And I hope I see you at one of our events. And the events that are coming up in September, we have several really good ones. If I've missed something today and you want to even ask questions after the call, after I stop recording, please feel free to do that. You can also text me on Facebook or go to the MeetUp group and text me there. I'm happy to answer questions. So take care, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.